But they since it's multiplication problem, just like when you do addition problems with Europeans, you got the zero on the top and the zero on the bottom. But when you do multiplication like time, speed, and space, you got one on the bottom and one on the top, and both of them have different signs. One sign is multiplication sign, and the other sign is dividing sign, which is a higher level of a negative and positive sign. It's not no, because division and multiplication came from addition. Whether you're talking about subtraction, which is an inverse addition. You know what I'm saying? Just like division is an inverse multiplication, but they both came from multiplication. And division came from addition and subtraction. So when you go back to the like E equals MC squared, or speed times space and time, what happened is you put time on the top and time on the bottom. You know what I'm saying? That's one of my formalization. Or you can switch it up and put time on the side, and you use space as conductors of time and speed. You know. And the thing is, when Europeans deal with space, time, and speed, the equation is going to always have that one on the top and one on the bottom. That's a constant. But when you're working with Kim-Patai formulas, it's a new quality. Sometimes you could get 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, which means multiplication by 2. And remember, in multiplication, when you dealing with 1, you're not really multiplying. You know what I'm saying? Going back to that, because when you're working with 1 as a source, you're going back to addition. You just destroyed the concept of multiplication. You know what I'm saying? And the multiplication of Eurocentrics is a contradiction. It's a contradiction. And 1 on the top, they couldn't see, the Eurocentrics didn't never seen that they had 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. They could feel it a little bit, because every time they do their multiplication, numbers seem right, because you always have the 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. So if for instance, you have 4, which is space, which is distance, like 4 meters, and you got, like, for instance, 2 seconds. What happened is that when you divide 2 into 4, you get 2 as the speed. And the reason it doesn't transform or get off balance, so to speak, is because really in that equation, they didn't put it in the equation. If you look at their books, they never put it down as 1 being on the top of the equal sign and one being on the bottom of the equal sign. When you do that, if you put 0 on the top and 0 on the bottom, 0 times the number is going to make it 0. So that'll throw the whole equation off. Because when you divide 4 into 2, and that equation go over the active synergy of sides, which is the equal sign, it changed, because when you multiply 2 with 0, and 0 is that conductor over the equal sign, becomes 0, so the whole equation be contradictory. But when you put 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, any number passing from multiplication or division stays the same. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things about 1 I went into in doubling. That 1 conserves things. You know what I'm saying? It mirrors the number. It just, the same light hitting the mirror is the same light emitting from the mirror. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they see. They only see the law of identity when they look at the physical world, or when they look at the energetic world, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? When they look at both of them as they can't really know the spirituality or measure it with their sciences, because they don't have synergy of sides. They have the law of identity, which breaks material and energy down as separate entities. So since the synergy disappeared, how can you calculate it if it's like trying to build a house and you don't got no foundations? First you need a foundation. And the foundation is space and time equal to each other. You know? And that circulation of time and space is different from a linear expression or Eurocentric expression of time and space, because the linear, like I said, all curved motion, no matter if you're dealing with the physical world, spiritual world, or mathematical world, is circular. You know what I'm saying? In circular motion, looks more like its source, which is noon. You know what I'm saying? The formless form, where something, when you spin a fan, and the fan spins so much, don't the fan look like it just stayed there? You know what I'm saying? Like the blades is everywhere at once, or the fan ain't even moving, or just moving a little bit. You see the rhythm within the rhythm and shit, where the fan just move a little bit, but it's still moving as a whole. But certain, you can see certain, it's a certain shift of motion in general, like the overall motion, the meta motion, where the fans circulate, but at the same time you see the fan shifting, and you see the same blade that been spinning for like 100 miles per hour, whatever, you know, 50 miles, 35 miles per hour, whatever. You still see the crystallization of motion even within motion. So that circular motion, what happened is it looks like it's staying still. A forward motion don't do that. You can always tell the distance, because a forward motion is a manifestation form of the internal motion. So we're gonna show its distance and speed, but a circular motion is hard unless you within it, and that circle look like it's going straight. Just like when you're on the planet Earth, the Earth is circular, but when you on it, when you within the system of influence, it look like a straight line, because now that circular have a more deeper, tighter circular within itself, which is the same circle that exists in us and the planet at the same time. So since this commonality exists, it look like the planet, when we stand on the planet is straight down. You know what I'm saying? Straight forward. We don't see no curvature. So that's very important. And the internal is what give it the energy, the motion that look like its source, which is non-motion. Because when you look at 0 equal 1, it's really 1. All we did was associated 1, we shortened, you know what I'm saying? In order for 2 to be born, 1 have to synergize with its source on an equal footing. That means 1 and 0, they have to be a new source, and the new source is 1 in order for you to have a 2, which is the new marker. And it goes like that. When 2 synergize with 1 and 0, 3 becomes the marker, and 2 becomes the new source, and 1 and 0 becomes, you know, the old source, or 1 becomes the intermediate source, and 0 becomes the oldest source, and it goes on and on. So it's infinite different types of mathematical laws in math. It's not just like the identity crisis, or how the Europeans talk about the distribution, commutative, and association properties, or the Megan's law. You know what I'm saying? Not the Megan's law. Is it the Megan's law? Morgan's law. It's set theory. I'm going to talk about set theory too. I want to talk about the genetic method. The genetic method is what unites and synergizes the individual with the universal. And when you synergize that, you become the user, the bearer of the eye of Heru. You start seeing the universal in the individual, as the individual. Just like God as person, not God in person, God as person, same thing. You got when you're dealing with all other objects and entities, energies, places, events, and beings. What you're dealing with is dealing with different phenomena that have different sources, and all of it go to the same source. But when you look at certain spirits and you really want to directly control it as a God entity, you must look at the God in it. You know what I'm saying? And the God in it is the source. Just like if you want to do chemistry, for instance. To do chemistry quite well is not to memorize the whole entire periodic table. It's to know what is the general, what is the universal, at the same time, what is the individual. So when you look at that, what you're looking at is the gateway in which something else becomes chemistry. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, subatomic particles become atomic particles, and the only way they could really go through one to the other is that same line of it's a thin line between love and hate. You know what I'm saying? And that thin line is called the hydrogen atom. The thin line is called. I bring it back. I bring it back before. I bring it back than the Gagut or God Almighty General Unified Theory. I break it down more stronger than that. I go back not to tomb. I go to new, which is the unformed chaotic waters. And the unformed chaotic waters, or the blackness in chemistry and atoms, is the neutron. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, the Europeans figured that shit out, but they were so racist about they own science and shit like that. They took the neutron out. You know what I'm saying? They was gonna put the neutron on the periodic table, but the neutron is too black for them. You know what I'm saying? The neutron is what gives birth to all atoms. Anytime you look at an isotope, the isotope is a pregnant atom. You know what I'm saying? That's what an isotope is. And all isotopes have a neutron. And neutron is the noon. You know what I'm saying? That's what, when they talk about noon, the chaotic waters. And these chaotic waters still exist to this day as neutrons passing through us every millisecond. Like this force of neutronic waters is faster than any stream or any light. Is faster than light too. You know what I'm saying? Visible light is just the manifestation of this black matter. You know what I'm saying? Manifestation of neutrons interacting with each other to produce that phenomenon. And anytime a neutron splits off within itself, divide just like one in themselves, or if the neutron become fertilized, or they call it reactive, because you know the crackers call it reactive because they don't like development in the first place. So they be like, oh, it's reactive, it's reacting, it's out of our control. God damn it, we gotta cage this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how the Europeans think. But a reactive atom is actually an atom, or it's actually a particle that's about to give rise to something more than itself. So when you split neutrons up, it splits up to electron, one proton, and they circulate each other through a electromagnetic force, or they circulate each other with a collection of photons. Like it's a stream of photons going from the proton to the electron. And the proton and electron is the child of the neutron. You know what I'm saying? And they call the hydrogen in ancient Kemetic atom. But atom, you know, came from the noon. It came from the chaotic water without no rituals. You know what I'm saying? Like the neutron don't got no rituals that look like something in chemistry, or in manipulating the atoms and shit, or molecules. Like it don't have that. Just like zero have properties that no other number has. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why people couldn't really do alchemy, because a lot of them right now, even now, think the smallest, they hit to our African heritage in a way. They think the hydrogen atom is the smallest, is the ancestor atom, which is not. The hydrogen atom is just like number one, and number zero is the number zero is the neutron. So when they synergize, what happens? That's how it creates other atoms. Like you go from a hydrogen atom to helium atom. It goes to helium atom because that isotope of hydrogen inside, it was pregnant with a neutron. And when it's pregnant with a neutron, boom, when that neutron splits up, you get another pair of electrons and protons. It's like an organic cellular process, but on an atomic level. You know what I'm saying? As above, so below. You know. So when it divides in two, it becomes four, like it's 4 times.